First Class Productions.
As a Swedish guy living in Germany who loves football, the UEFA European Football Championship, which is held every 4 years, is something I look forward to months in advance. 4 weeks of adrenaline, drama, watching games with friends and having a good time. I'm not a diehard for sports games anymore, but I usually play football video games to hype up myself for the tournament. My collection of football video games is quite insane, to be honest, but nothing loses its value faster than sports games, so I never paid much for them. Same for my massive NHL collection. During the FIFA World Cup 2010, I reviewed World Cup Italy 90 for the Sega Mega Drive while my friends were watching. So I thought, why not do something like that again now that Euro 2024 just started? Thus, the research began. What was the first official Euro game? A quick Google search revealed it to be a game based on the 1992 tournament called Champions of Europe for the Sega Master System. Okay, so we're going 8-bit. Why not on Mega Drive? 92 is late for a Master System game, like 1 foot in the grave. A company called TecMagik developed and published this one. I recently snagged it on eBay and now it's time to see if it's worth my time. Today I'm playing alone, however, after what happened last time. It was horrible. Let's play some Champions of Europe.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
Let's rewind for a moment. The 1992 championship was hosted by my home country Sweden when I still lived there. I wasn't even 2 years old at the time, so of course I don't remember any of it. I do remember the bunny mascot, which I had as a plush toy. That little furball left quite an impression. You can't always count on Sweden in these tournaments, but back then they made it to the semi-finals where they lost to Germany. Germany would then go on to lose the final to Denmark, who only qualified at the last minute because Yugoslavia was disqualified. Quite a few rules have changed since then. This was the last tournament to only feature 8 contestants. The old point system was still in place, where a win only got you 2 points as opposed to 3. That just about covers the basics. The game starts with a sweet little animation of Bernie the Bunny showing off his mad skills. Gaze in wonder. If you don't push any buttons, his jersey will change on the title screen. Nice touch. Let's start. What am I looking at? What do all these symbols mean? A flag? Probably wind. A smiley face? Oh, that's the sun. Then that's time. I don't know what that thing is. A map maybe? Or a rusty old computer chip? Nobody knows. Extra time? And that? Curved shots? I need a manual. My game didn't come with one. Thank God for the internet. Okay, now it makes sense. So you get to pick the referee. Maybe we can rig the game in our favor too. According to the manual, there are 8 referees ranging from strict to lenient. Oh wow, so it's a guessing game for newbies. What a weird concept. And what a crazy menu. By the way, it looks like the guy on the left is trying to punch the other one in the face. This isn't ice hockey. Red card. Behold the 4 modes. Demo lets you watch the computer play. Doesn't that sound riveting? Like staring at a pocket calculator. Then there's practice, single, and tournament. It probably wouldn't hurt to practice. Let's pick a country. What the hell? The countries are described in their native tongue. It's secretly a game for linguists and scholars. I hope you paid attention in 92 European geography class. You can even play as countries that didn't participate in the real tournament, blurring the line between fact and fiction. Great, more symbols. Now it's a game for archaeologists. You can practice a regular game and penalties. Like you would expect, we get a top-down perspective, a bird's eye view. Hello? Did it freeze? Ah, finally! I'm familiar with top-down football games. World Cup Italy 90 was like that. But that one was easier to get into. Why? How do I explain this? The ball was stuck to you like a magnet when you changed direction. Here it isn't. It's slippery. That means more often than not you lose the ball when you move any other direction than straight. Those diagonals are treacherous. Even running towards the ball doesn't work like you'd expect. I just run around it in circles. It's so awkward. Of course, the Master System controller only had 2 buttons, so our moves are limited. The one button makes you pass, but only pressing it briefly makes you chip the ball. Also, it's used to slide tackle. If you hold down the button, you trap the ball and can then rotate the player before passing. The 2 button is used for shooting or sprinting if you don't have the ball. Pressing both buttons simultaneously makes you cycle through different team tactics, which only happens by accident, of course, when you try to do something else. Penalties are pretty straightforward. Press any of the 8 directions on the D-pad and that's it. As a goalie, it's way harder because he's jumping in slow-mo. Alright, enough practice. Let's face some opponents in a single game. How about the Scandinavian Derby? Oh lord, this is a freaking disaster. I have no clue what I'm doing. I keep losing that greasy freaking ball. All I do is desperately run after the opponent. Passing doesn't work at all and I can't even get near the goal. Mostly I got the ball because the opponent fouled me. This is also where I realized that you don't control the goalie. That was pretty common in those days, so I won't cry about it. Man, I'm speechless. It's not like I'm losing either because the AI is hideous. So this match ended 0-0, a worthless stalemate, and I'm asking myself how in the world I'm supposed to win an entire tournament. But here we go, on to the main event. Of course I'm playing as Sweden, trying to rewrite history. Sadly, these aren't the real groups from the actual tournament. Kinda defeats the purpose of a game like this. France is our first opponent. It's hopeless. Running after the ball can bite you in the ass because if you don't let go of the button in time, you impulsively shoot. Yellow card? Come on man, that was nothing. At least throw-ins aren't obnoxious and work as you would expect. Look at this. I was trying to go diagonally up to the right, but in order to do that I need to change my angle, which resulted in this. Final score 0-0 again. At least I got a point. Then it makes you skip through the results of every other match. I don't care. Match 2 against Romania was more of the same. 0-0 again. Zeros as far as the eye can see, but you'd need negative numbers to capture exactly how I'm feeling right now. In other games when I suck this bad, I lose. Not here. But I need a win if I want to move on in the tournament. Now we're tangling with Italy. Oh boy. Wow, one of my players got injured. Play nice, guys. Corners are fairly straightforward too. Use the crosshair to mark where you want the ball to land. It all seemed hopeless as it was basically 20 toddlers aimlessly running after the ball. But then something magical happened. I got a penalty. This is my golden chance. The pressure of an entire country lays on my shoulders. And it's in. Wow. So I advanced to the semi-finals with a single goal, a penalty. I'll take it cause I'm a cheap bastard. But this means... uh-oh. Semi-finals against Germany. History repeats itself. As I said in the beginning, I was too young to watch the game at the time, but I sure hope it was more exciting than this. What? What the hell was that? Germany shot a goal within seconds while my goalie was still asleep. All I can do now is hope for another penalty or we're done for. And wouldn't you know it, I got one shortly after and scored. Close call though. Clutch. After quote-unquote 90 minutes, it was 1-1, so we got extra time. In real life, extra time is 2 times 15 minutes. Here, each half is 3 minutes long, just as long as the regular game. So basically, the time is doubled. Man, this is so boring. Of course, nothing noteworthy happened, so penalties it is. Finally, some excitement. What I don't like is that the ref doesn't whistle to let you know you're allowed to shoot. You just hold the directional button and wait for the player to run. This whole thing just takes an eternity. Hurry up already! Ah, what? I missed? Germany scored. No, I missed again. Oh, I didn't. Ooh, but Germany did. This is my chance. A nail-biter. This went on for another 4 minutes. No one missed. But eventually, my goalie became the hero of the night and Sweden won 12-11. This is ridiculous. But I'm so glad my friends weren't watching. I'd be dead. Final. Against France. Again. Can I at least score one regular goal? One single goal? Is that too much to ask? Apparently it is. I'll spare you the gory details, but it was 0-0 on regular time for this rematch. In the second half of extra time, I got a penalty and scored. 1-0, I won the tournament. Woohoo. Congratulations. Yeah, no one in the history of football has deserved the title as much as I have. All you get is this screen and a below average 8-bit tune. Then it's back to the menu. I'm usually someone who can appreciate a game being a product of its time, the time capsule approach to revisiting these games. But let's be real for a second. This game is bad beyond redemption. I recorded 2 hours of gameplay and that's not much of a sample size for the whole experience, I know. Still, in those 2 hours, I didn't score a single goal except for penalties. Now that I think of it, I can count on one hand how many shots on goal I had. I've played some crappy football games in my day, but this one ranks deep down in the jockstraps of time among the worst. There's no way I can get used to the controls. You can shout skill issue all you want, I don't care. This game is poorly programmed and the ineptitude defies explanation. A thing as simple as keeping the ball doesn't work. Passing and shooting is disastrous too. With a limited view, the ball moves way too fast when you shoot. The broken radar feature won't help you find your teammates. 99% of my time was spent running around like a douche, hoping to get fouled for a penalty. Like a glutton for punishment. Only after I played did I find out that there's a glitch in this game that pretty much breaks the entire thing. If you shoot at your own goal, it counts as a regular goal every single time. I'm at a loss for words. I could have saved a lot of time. The best thing about the entire game is the title screen with the catchy music. Other than this and the end screen, there's no music at all. During gameplay, you only hear sound effects that would have been great on Atari. I didn't mind it too much and it never got on my nerves. What I do like are small details like players cursing after losing the ball. That's charming. The graphics are okay for 8-bit and I wouldn't even mind the overhead perspective if the gameplay was better. While gameplay is rather quick-paced, it takes too much time to get things going sometimes, whether it's a kickoff or a free kick. You can bet I will never touch this game ever again. It has aged like sour milk and is simply not worth my time or yours for that matter. Forgive me for even showing you. There's a reason you've never heard of this game before. It's awful and should be buried somewhere in the desert. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm about to meet with some friends. Ich habe Champions of Europe für Sega Master System gespielt und das ganze Turnier quasi durchgespielt und bin Europameister geworden.
Ja, Respekt.
Aber kurze Frage, schon mit Deutschland, oder?
Aber du hast mit Deutschland gespielt, richtig?
Du hast aber schon mit Deutschland gespielt, oder?
Naja, also...
Aber du hast schon mit Deutschland gespielt, oder?
Schweden?
Leider.
So, jetzt gibt's die Quittung hier.
Nein! Ah!
So. 1, 2 und auf und... Ah, my back. Why on earth didn't I see this coming? Germans take their sport seriously, especially football. I need a chance to redeem myself. I don't have a German jersey, but I hope this will do. So, what was the next Euro game in line? Naturally, we got a follow-up in 1996. UEFA EURO 96 England came rolling onto the MS-DOS and Sega Saturn. Yep, we're going 3D this time. The console version was developed by Gremlin Interactive and published by Sega. It used the engine of their previous game Actua Soccer as a base. I've never owned a Saturn and only played it a couple of times in like 97 or 98 at a friend's house. It's like a distant planet in my memory. I've thought about getting one for years. Did I seriously buy a Saturn just so I can review this game? You bet I did. That's the dedication you get on this channel, Classic GFrom. It begs the question though, is the second official European Championship game any better than the first? Did I waste my money? I guess there's only one way to find out. Again, let's rewind for a moment. Euro 96 in England was the first tournament to feature 16 teams, twice as many as in 92. It was also the first to reward 3 points to a win instead of 2. Germany, the country I had just moved to at the time, won the tournament with a golden goal against the Czech Republic. Sweden, my birth country, didn't qualify. Don't feel sorry for me though. At the time I didn't even watch football. I was only 5. Anyway, enough with history. I'm pumped to finally play some Sega Saturn.
¡Qué rebote más desafortunado! La pelota ha entrado.
Excuse me?
Absolument époustouflant.
Oh, it's different languages.
Eine Granate.
What a cliché, a German guy using grenades as a metaphor. Before I say anything else, check out the music. It hits so hard. Almost makes me want to work out instead of playing the game. Similar to Champions of Europe, we get a trifecta of modes: practice, friendly and tournament. This time around you can only pick one of the 16 teams that actually participated back in the 90s. There are a few options and rules you can fuss with, like game length, offside, free kicks and so on. I'm leaving everything as it is. You also get to select the venue, and if you're feeling nerdy, there's some info about the stadiums and players. Being an official release, you get all the real player names and get to choose your tactic and who's playing. Let's practice. Oh god, this perspective is nauseating. How do I change it? Okay, it's the shoulder buttons. I think touchline camera works best for me, although I prefer it being further away from the field. Now I know the game doesn't look like much nowadays, but compare this to what EA was doing at the time with FIFA 96 on PS1. It was a step forward graphically. But yeah, all players look like the same blocky model. The graphics improved as the years went by, as did the audio. We even get commentary. There's hardly a fraction of lines you get in modern football games, but it makes it more immersive nonetheless. The human brain is wired to appreciate real human voices after all.
Oh, good play.
Practice mode doesn't feature opponents, but I still can't handle the controls. You see, the Saturn controller has 6 front buttons, but the game only utilizes 4 of them. According to the manual, there are over 40 different kinds of shots and passes. This is unnecessarily complicated. For example, if you want to high pass, you need to hold both shoot and pass and then release only pass. Why not Y or Z? The main problem I ran into was that I could never be sure where my passes would land. Like I push forward and pass, but he passes backwards instead, in defiance. It plays unlike any other football game I've ever played in that regard. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out how this is supposed to work. The manual gave me a working knowledge of the moves, but almost 30 years later, this control scheme feels ancient. I didn't manage to score a goal, but I want to play against the AI. Therefore, I started a friendly match. As you would expect, it was an awkward friendship. At least you don't lose the ball when you turn. It took me a second to realize that again you don't control the goalie most of the time, only during goal kicks. The AI is a bumbling mess. Too often they make desperate shots from across the field with 0 chance of scoring. Every shot on target from me landed in the hands of the keeper. Haven't figured this out yet. What I don't understand is that for the second half the camera resets. What's the point of that? Having the shoulder buttons change the angle isn't exactly ideal because I often did it by accident, completely throwing me off. I'm getting dizzy. The shoulder buttons are very sensitive. Pay attention to the ball here. Where did it go? Hello? There we go. Yeah, so this wasn't much of a thrill. Might as well start the tournament. With Sweden unavailable and the looming fear of my friends beating me up again, I feel compelled to play as Germany. Ah, look at all these classic German players. Some of them are absolute legends. After all, they won the real tournament, so I think the odds are in my favor. This time by default, the groups are the ones from the actual tournament, but you have the option to redraw. Therefore, our first match is against the Czech Republic. Wait a minute. Oof, they both stick with white jerseys. With these old blocky graphics, it will be a pain to separate my players from the rest. You can't pick jerseys, I believe, so we have to deal with it. And wouldn't you know it, I scored my first goal early on. Just a straight shot.
Oh, it's needed something special to beat the keeper on the form he's shown today.
The commentator is really dumb sometimes, idiotic even.
Well, I thought that was a corner myself.
The more I play this, the more the passing grates on my nerves. Instead of taking the ball after a pass, it often just bounces off the player's back or something. Anyhow, I ended up winning and, next up, it's a battle with Russia. At least I can tell the teams apart in this game. It's no use, because I can't defend at all. I know which buttons to push, but it's not intuitive. Ah, come on, Köpke, what are you doing? I could barely get the ball in front of the goal, let alone seal the deal. The few times I did, I shot directly at the goalie. You always shoot in the direction you're pushing, so it's extremely hard to get in a precise shot with the D-pad. I ended up losing, sending myself into a fit of irritation and gloom. Needing a break, I saved my game and returned later, only to discover my save file was gone. Stolen from me. The fact that I had to set the clock again should have come as a warning. The solution was simple. I just needed to replace the battery. Now saving works, much to my relief. However, that meant I had to start all over. I'll spare you the fascinating details. I won both games 2-1. Going slightly diagonally seemed to do the trick, at least sometimes. Already qualified for the knockout rounds, there was no pressure in the third match against Italy, which I won 2-0. Even though I'm still terrible, the AI is definitely brain dead. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can win the tournament without resorting to penalties like a dirty cheater. Things looked promising at first, but okay. The quarterfinals against Croatia were hard on the eyes again because of the white jerseys. It's so hard to tell them apart. It almost doesn't matter because the passes go to random players anyway. It almost comes as a surprise when a pass goes to the right player. With a 2-1 victory, we're up against England in the semi-finals, just like in real life. Back then, Germany won the penalty shootout. England were famous for never winning penalties for the longest time. After 90 minutes, it was down to 1-1. That means extra time. In '96, the so-called golden goal was introduced. This means that the first team who scores a goal during extra time wins the entire match. And that's exactly what happened. I lost. Oh god, this can't be. My friends will kill me. What do? Flee the country? No, wait. I saved before the game. I'll reload and they'll never find out. I'm such a genius. Alright, here's my second attempt. The most boring match in history. A low point for global athletics as a whole and a pit stain on the jersey of humanity. 0-0 after 120 minutes. You know what that means. Penalties. In every football game, penalties always play a little differently and I have no clue what's in store. Okay, England starts. 1-0. Do I even control the goalie? I doubt it. What the hell is happening? Oh, really? They don't shoot at the same goal? They run across the entire field to the other goal? After every shot? Imagine if they did that for real. That's so stupid. Anyway, your player rotates automatically and you only have to time your shot. First one went in. Nice. But then I missed. And then again. The angle sucks. It's the camera's fault, I swear. But England also missed, so I'm not doomed yet. But of course, I missed again and lost. I lost to England. I lost a penalty shootout against England. I'm so dead. It's the same thing that happened in 2010. Reload it is. This feels like such a waste of time. But wouldn't you know it, I managed to score 3 goals on my third attempt. That makes up for it, right?
An absolutely stunning goal.
Final match against Spain. The big showdown, that's what we're here for. It was a game like any other, me feeling like I have no control but scoring a few goals anyway. Andy Möller scored the winning goal. With a 2-1 victory, Germany won Euro 96 fair and square. No time travel needed. And what do we get? This. Don't you feel like a winner? To be honest, I'm feeling exhausted. This was a terrible experience. I mean, it wasn't as catastrophic as Champions of Europe, but this game aged like ass in other ways. It just plays awful and not like you would expect. I can't get over the fact that pushing a direction during passing doesn't do anything. Too often you just pass backwards or to someone right next to you. I don't know why they didn't take advantage of all those buttons on the controller. In trying to be simple, they just made things more convoluted. There's too much randomness. I'm sure there are people who love this game and have mastered the controls over the years. But I honestly believe that the majority of new players will not have a jolly good time getting used to everything. For an early 3D football game, it looks okay, but that doesn't make it a pleasant sight. The audio during gameplay does its job and sets the mood nicely. The commentary is fine for what it is, but I sure got sick of hearing the same lines on repeat. At the time, I would have played it anyway, despite its issues, because the newest football game I owned at the time was FIFA International Soccer on Mega Drive, which was a great game for its time, but technically inferior. In 2024, there's no reason to ever give it a try, sadly. The only reason I'm glad I gave it a shot is the incredible music. Both the menu menu and credits have amazing songs. The menu song especially has been stuck in my head for a while now and I can listen to it on loop. Was it worth getting a Saturn for it? Of course not, but I didn't expect it to be. You gotta respect my low expectations and the strange places they take me. In the end, I must say that Euro games of the 90s were products of their times. Football games have come a long way and it's unfair comparing them to new titles. But even for their time, they weren't among the greats and there's a reason nobody talks about them anymore. I don't think I'll replay any of them ever again. Still, they helped me get into the Euro spirit just a little bit, so I'll take it. In the 2000s, these games would only get better, but nah, I think I'm done for now. Maybe we'll check them out in 4 years, who knows. Anyway, now it's time to tell my friends of the German victory. Ich habe jetzt ein zweites Spiel gespielt, UEFA EURO 96 für den Sega Saturn. Das ganze Turnier wieder durchgespielt, bin Europameister geworden mit Deutschland.
Ah, das ist endlich mal gut. Aber ist das die ganze Wahrheit?
Ja, irgendwas stimmt da ganz und gar nicht.
Ja gut, ihr habt recht, das Spiel ist so verdammt schwer und ich musste immer wieder neu laden, bis ich es dann endlich mal geschafft habe. Aber ursprünglich habe ich im Halbfinale verloren gegen England im Elfmeterschießen.
Das kann doch nicht dein Ernst sein.
Elfmeterschießen? England?
Gegen England im Elfmeterschießen? Ganz ehrlich, geh zurück nach Ikea-Land.
Wie kann man denn gegen England verlieren? Im Elferschießen? Junge!
Also, hackt's bei dir?
Brand in der Hölle.
Nein, nicht schon wieder. Nein, los. Bitte nicht. Nein, oh nein, was soll das? Nein, lass mich los, verdammt, nein. Hört auf. Nein. Oh nein. Oh Gott.
Wir schreien laut, wie schön, Sega Saturn hebt uns hoch, bringt uns zu dem Sieg, oh ja, Deutschland blüht im Spielerekord.
Oh Gott.
Europameister 96, England auf dem Bildschirm fix, Helden digital gemacht, das ganze Land wacht auf in Pracht. Wir sind die Champions auf dem Platz, im Sega Saturn spielt der Spaß. Deutschland, wir feiern mit Triumph, EMC macht uns zum König.
Ich werde hier sterben. Oh no.
Wir schreien laut, wie schön, Sega Saturn hebt uns hoch, bringt uns zu dem Sieg, oh ja, Deutschland blüht im Spielerekord. Europameister 96, in England auf dem Bildschirm fix, Helden digital gemacht, das ganze Land wacht auf in Pracht. Wir sind die Champions auf dem Platz, im Sega Saturn spielt der Spaß. Deutschland, wir feiern mit Triumph, EMC macht uns zum König.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun making this video. Feel free to rate, comment and subscribe. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.